I wanted to touch a little bit on the fact that sometimes we lie to ourselves about the motives of other people. And sometimes you can think, well, I'm going to make excuses for somebody because, they got a lot going on in their life. And, people, people have things going on. So we should always try to be understanding, right? And I do believe that, because the truth is, you don't know what's going on in another person's life. Like, people are going through things. And sometimes people are not very fair, or they're not very kind. They're not demonstrating the kind of virtues that we would say are ideal. But the truth is, they aren't evil people. They don't wish other people harm. That's the truth. Sometimes people do hurtful things, and they are not trying to be bad people. They're just trying to survive in life the only way they know how. And life is daunting and frightening sometimes. So it's really important to forgive people of their trespasses in the same way that we would want other people to forgive us. When you really put yourself in the shoes of other folks, you're going to realize that if you had to deal with what other people deal with, you might well make the same decisions that they have. So it's really important to be understanding. And oftentimes that's also super hard, because people do things even if they don't mean to. They do things that are hurtful or harmful. And probably sometimes we do things too that are harmful to others. So that's just that. However, it's also true that you have to call a spade a spade. And if people act like they don't care, they don't. If people appear that they don't want to make any sacrifices for the sake of doing the right thing, that's just the truth. It's really easy to start making excuses for people, to go beyond just trying to be understanding, and to instead start trying to say that people are something that they're not. And if somebody isn't inclined to be a certain way, no amount of you trying to project a different value set onto them is going to make them change. They're going to be what it is their nature to be. Just like a bear will be a bear. It might be beautiful, but it'll also rip into you. So I'm talking about two things. I'm talking about forgiveness and understanding. I'm also talking about truth and accepting that. Don't look at people's bad actions and say they're doing bad things, but it's not really what it looks like. Like they have something going on. They have an explanation, and they'll come around, because you have no assurance of that. And the truth is, people don't usually change. And quite often, if you trust your gut, you're going to have this feeling that something isn't right. And more often than not, if you listen to it, you're going to find out you were right. You were right all along. If somebody didn't seem honest, they're probably a liar. If it seemed like their motives were disingenuous, it's probably how it is. If they seem like somebody who doesn't keep their word, that's probably the truth. And maybe sometimes people change. Maybe sometimes one season in life isn't the same as every other season. And so you come to find that a door that's closed today could be open in the future. It's a 100% true that sometimes people do change over time. People do break out of their chains. They do turn over new leaves. They do start new chapters. But the truth is its own arbiter. There's no need for truth to be fed through some sort of a tool of interpretation, because it just is what it is. I think sometimes we hang on to these fantasies of things we wish it was different. So therefore, we will continue to tell ourselves it is something, even though it isn't. And then we wind up being hurt. And we also wind up being angry at ourselves because we know that we're essentially allowing ourselves to be taken advantage of. We're allowing ourselves to fall prey to the same little tricks over and over again. And then we don't just despise other people for deceiving us. We despise ourselves for allowing ourselves to be made fools of. So, as important as it is to forgive people, as important as it is to understand that even if people do things that's hurtful, they don't mean to hurt other people, it's also important to not deceive ourselves and to acknowledge that if people do things that appear to be bad, if they do things that appear to be disingenuous, if they do things that appear to be unkind or dishonest, it just is what it is. There's no value to be gained from trying to make a case for why something looks wrong and feels wrong, but it actually really isn't what it seems. And that could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be bad friends, it could be a romantic relationship. You know, there's so many applications in life. It's just like when you're playing a video game and you don't enjoy the game. It's not fun. It doesn't really suck you in. But you paid $50 for it and you wanted it to be good. So you start consuming the copium and you start saying it's good even though it's not. Even though you don't enjoy it, you're going to still be there trying to convince yourself that it's amazing. Even though the truth is, you know it's not. At some point, though, the truth catches up. At some point, you have to acknowledge the fact that it was what it seemed right from the beginning. You know, like I remember when New World came out. I've talked about that game because New World is an amazing game in many ways. It's got a lot of really cool mechanics. It's a game I enjoy. And yet, you know, it feels like it's empty. It feels like it kind of has no soul to it. It doesn't really have a meaningful story, particularly. It doesn't feel original in terms of world building. And so I played that game quite a bit. But the reality is, no matter how much I played it, it felt kind of empty. And it really didn't matter whether I put in a few dozen hours or a few hundred hours. Those same fundamental feelings of emptiness were just there. You know, it's that way with life sometimes. You find something or someone, or you get involved with something and you think, you know, this ought to be great. But it just isn't. And no matter how much you try to overlook certain flaws, they're just there. They're always there, recurring again and again. And you get so tired of it because you think, my goodness, like when will it get good? You know, and people will be like, oh, like a video game, you know, like, oh, it gets good after a few hundred hours. Well, okay. But does it? Or do you just keep on going at it, keep on trying your best to make the best of it, and it never actually gets better? It never becomes good, because a spade's a spade. And you know, I'm not talking about things being perfect, because nothing in life is perfect. I'm just saying that things usually are what they appear to be. And there's a lot of people out there who will manipulate other people, and then they will try to say that they are the victim. Maybe it's a bad employee who violates the rules, doesn't really work very hard, doesn't show up to work, and then eventually they're held accountable, maybe they're let go or something, and then when they finally get to that point, then they'll tell the manager, you know, how dare you do this to me? But the reality is they did it to themselves, because every single day they had the opportunity to show good stewardship, to demonstrate loyalty, to be consistent, and they never were. And maybe they have a reason, but it doesn't change the fact that people who really care will show it. People who really want to be somewhere, they'll be there. And people who don't really care, they will always have an excuse. And they'll always have you there, kind of just on the string waiting, while they continue to come up with more excuses for why they can't follow through today. But maybe tomorrow. You know, like you missed work for the last, 5 out of the last 20 days, but the future is going to be different, right? Sure. Till tomorrow when you miss work again. See, some people are just always like that. You know, I saw this meme and I thought it was really true. It's a picture of somebody on the phone, and they're telling someone, "My goodness, I'm so busy. Let me call you back after I finish opening the refrigerator door." You know? Like, and that's how it is. Like, there's people always have an excuse for why they're too busy. Always something going on. Always some reason why they got a crisis that they're navigating, You ever notice that? Like some people, man, they always have a crisis. Like every single time you talk to them, they're like, oh man, I wish I was dead. Life's terrible. I wouldn't believe what crazy thing just happened to me. You know, and I get it. Sometimes something wild happens. But sometimes it just seems like certain people just live in a state of perpetual crisis. Like there's never a time when they aren't living in crisis. And if every day is a crisis, every day there's something wild that gives you a reason not to follow through on your obligations. Every day there's something that's going to give you an excuse so that you can blame your life on some outside circumstance. Well, it's probably not the circumstance. It's probably not the crisis. It's probably just your lifestyle. A lifestyle of finding excuses. Because when people care, they find a way to show it and to back it up with action. And whether it's people or jobs or the stock market, if you choose to continue to invest in things that do not bear fruit in your life, and you choose to continue to tell yourself that things which are fake are real, you continue to believe the lies of people who do not demonstrate faithfulness, who do not build their lives or their actions on the premise of truth, you continue to buy into it. It's just like if you bought into something worthless on the stock market. You know it doesn't have any fundamentals. You know it's fake, but you choose to buy it because it has a good sales pitch. Well, don't be surprised when it goes to zero, because the truth will always come out in the end. There's a Bible verse that says, what you do in darkness will be revealed in the light. There's also a Bible verse that says, every man's work will be tried by fire to see of what sort it is. And that's true. In the end, the truth prevails. It doesn't matter what somebody says. It doesn't matter how much some part of their motive is good. If the things that they're doing don't add up to value, you have to appraise things fairly and truthfully, even if that's hurtful. Sometimes you have to acknowledge you made a mistake. Sometimes you have to accept the fact that your judgment was wrong. People aren't what you thought they were. And that's hard. It's hard. Sometimes it's easier to lie to yourself than it is to acknowledge that kind of truth. Especially when it means that you've come a long way and you have to start over because you got to walk away from something that's toxic and bad, and you got to start over. But it's better to do that late than never. It's better to accept the truth today and then accept that there's consequences that are inconvenient to you than it is to continue your whole life telling yourself lies and buying in more and more to the lies other people tell you. You know, it's okay to be fooled by people. It's okay to make a bad call. What's not okay is to continually fall into the same trap. I was watching this thing on YouTube about a guy who fell into the same sort of crypto scam over and over again. Like he lost all of his money to these people that scammed him. And then after he lost all his money, or a lot of his money, to these scammers, then more scammers reached out to him and they said, okay, we'll help you get your money back, you know, if you give us some more money. So what does he do? He gives him some more money, and then he gets scammed again. Like, it's the exact same scam. He fell for it more than once. You know, and like at that point, you're thinking to yourself, well, this dude is so gullible. I'm not even judging him at this point because he fell for a scam. I'm judging him because he fell for the same scam more than once. Like, you can't even blame anybody other than him, because he knew. He learned his lesson once, but he didn't apply it. And so like you, yeah, it's too bad that people scammed him, but there's a certain point at which it's his fault, because he didn't learn. He didn't learn not to accept that the obvious was right in front of him. And, you know, how often do we do that? We go back to the same things again and again, things that don't deliver results, things that have proven to be untrustworthy. We go back again and again. We say, oh, maybe this time it'll be different. As long as we keep on doing that, we can't have new positive things come into our life, because we have continued to hang on to old lies from the past. Those are things we have to surrender. You got to surrender the things that are not true, false premises. And I think when we give up those things and we accept the truth, there's a certain level of loneliness that accompanies that. But then there's growth. It's like pruning a tree back, and then it starts to grow anew. And then it starts to get better from there. And then sometimes when you get rid of all the toxic things, then, you know, then finally the good things can start to manifest themselves. But first you have to make a clean break with the things that don't deliver good fruit in your life. So wherever you find yourself, always ask yourself, what is the truth? Make that the first question you ask. What is the truth? Not based on what I want, but based on what I've observed. And then make your decisions accordingly. And if that means that you have to end relationships, if that means that you have to walk away from a job, whatever it is, so be it. Then be open. Open to new things, open to new chapters. You never know where good things can come from. They often come to you when you least expect it, but they seldom come when your life is consumed by toxic things from the past that you refuse to let go of. Good luck on your adventure. Till next time, as always, thanks for watching.